Billionaire Sheikh asked Maid's daughter to play chess as a test, unaware she was a child genius. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. In a luxurious mansion perched high above the city, a wealthy and powerful sheikh, known as Rashid Al Farouk, sat at a grand table surrounded by his advisors. The sun had just set, casting a golden hue through the marble windows of the opulent estate. The sheikh had built his empire from the ground up and was known for his quick wit, sharp intellect, and love for playing chess. Today, however, he would meet someone who would completely shatter his perception of intelligence. Amina, the young daughter of his maid, had been invited into the room under the pretense of a simple challenge. Rashid, amused and confident, looked down at the child sitting across from him. She was no more than 11 years old, dressed simply in a faded dress that seemed out of place in the gleaming luxury around her. The sheikh smirked, feeling certain that this would be an easy game. "I challenge you to a game of chess," he said with a chuckle. "If you manage to win, I will give you something valuable as a reward." Amina looked up, her face calm, her expression betraying no signs of fear or nervousness. She had heard whispers from the servants about Rashid's arrogance and his tendency to mock those he considered beneath him, but none of that fazed her. In fact, she had been playing chess with her grandfather for years, learning every strategy, every move, every tactic. To her, this was not just a game. It was an opportunity to prove herself. As they began the game, Rashid made the first move, confidently placing his knight in an aggressive position. Amina, however, did not seem to be paying attention to the same things. Her eyes were not on the pieces, but on the strategy. She carefully observed his moves, noting his patterns, his weaknesses. Rashid's advisors watched from the sidelines, their smirks barely hidden behind their hands as they anticipated Amina's inevitable defeat. What they didn't know, however, was that Amina was far more than what they assumed. As the game progressed, it became clear that Amina was not only matching Rashid's moves, but countering them with precision and grace. The sheikh's confidence began to falter as he found himself unable to anticipate her next moves. His once self-assured demeanor slowly shifted to one of confusion. Amina, with each passing moment, moved her pieces with a calm determination, her mind working faster than anyone in the room could comprehend. What began as a mockery quickly turned into a contest of wits. And as Rashid realized that his pieces were being trapped one by one, a sudden doubt crept into his mind. Was it possible that this young girl was more than she seemed? As the game continued, the tension in the room began to rise. Amina's every move was executed with the precision of a seasoned player. Rashid Al Farouk, the mighty sheikh, was now visibly sweating, his usual air of confidence replaced with confusion and frustration. The advisors who had once laughed at the idea of a young girl beating their master were now silent, their eyes darting between Amina and the sheikh. Rashid leaned back in his chair, his hand running through his thick black beard, trying to make sense of the situation. Amina, on the other hand, remained calm. She had been taught by her grandfather, a former chess champion, and had spent years mastering the game. This was not just a game for her. It was an opportunity to prove her worth. The moves were coming faster now, and with each one, it became clearer that Rashid was being outplayed at every turn. His once brilliant strategy seemed disorganized, full of holes. He had underestimated her, thinking she was just a child, a mere maid's daughter who could not possibly have the intellect to compete in his world. But with every piece Amina moved, the truth became undeniable. This little girl was a genius. "You seem to be getting a little desperate, Sheikh," Amina said softly, her voice calm but firm. Rashid's face turned red. The words stung, but he couldn't deny them. He glanced down at the board, and for the first time since the game had started, he saw the situation for what it truly was. His position was slipping, and Amina had him cornered. He made a bold move, attempting to escape the trap, but it was too late. Amina responded instantly, moving her queen into position. The game was almost over. Rashid was cornered. His once confident demeanor had completely vanished, replaced by disbelief and helplessness. The Sheikh sat frozen, staring at the chessboard as Amina smiled gently. "Checkmate," she said, her voice soft but filled with an undeniable triumph. The room was silent for a moment, the weight of what had just happened hanging in the air. Rashid slowly leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he looked at Amina, the realization dawning on him. He had lost, and not just to anyone, to a young girl who had been dismissed as nothing more than a servant's child. His pride, his arrogance, had led him to underestimate her, and now, in front of his entire entourage, he had been shown the true meaning of humility. Amina stood up, her expression calm, but inside, her heart was racing. This moment was everything she had worked for. She had proven that intelligence and talent do not come from wealth or status, but from within. The Sheikh stared at her for a few seconds longer before standing up. His shoulders slumped, and for the first time in the game, he was not the powerful man who had entered the room. He was just a man who had lost. And as he looked at Amina, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: respect. The advisors were speechless, unable to comprehend what had just happened. They had witnessed their leader, the great Sheikh, being outsmarted by a girl they had never taken seriously. Rashid cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. "I admit defeat," he said quietly. "You have my respect, young one." Amina nodded, but her expression remained composed, as if this moment was nothing more than a natural outcome of a game well played. "Thank you," she said simply. The Sheikh, still processing the defeat, turned to his advisors, signaling them to leave the room. The game was over, and with it, the perception of who was truly powerful had changed. Amina had not only won the game of chess, she had won the respect of a man who had once believed he was untouchable. The room remained silent for a long moment after Amina's victory. Rashid, his pride bruised, finally turned away from the chessboard. He stood there, looking out the window at the city below, lost in thought. Amina remained seated, her calm demeanor betraying none of the excitement she felt inside. She had done it. She had proven that her intellect was not to be dismissed, not by a man like Rashid, and certainly not by anyone else. The advisors in the room, once so smug and dismissive, now exchanged uncertain glances. They had seen their leader, the Sheikh, bested by a child. It was an uncomfortable sight, a blow to their perception of the world, where wealth and power were supposed to dictate every outcome. Rashid finally broke the silence. He cleared his throat and turned to face Amina. "You have beaten me fair and square," he said, his voice low but filled with a new respect. "I must admit, I underestimated you. Your skills are beyond impressive." Amina nodded, but said nothing. She had nothing to prove anymore. Her victory spoke for itself. Rashid stepped closer, his eyes now full of curiosity rather than arrogance. "Tell me," he said, "how did you learn to play like that? To think like that?" Amina hesitated for a moment. She had never really explained how she learned chess. It had been her grandfather, a retired chess champion, who had taught her when she was very young. He had always told her that chess was not just about the game itself, but about understanding people, anticipating their moves, and thinking several steps ahead. "My grandfather taught me," she replied simply. "He said chess is not just about winning. It's about understanding the game and the people you play against. It's about seeing things others don't see." Rashid nodded slowly, clearly impressed. He hadn't expected such wisdom to come from a child, let alone one from such a humble background. "Your grandfather was right," he said thoughtfully. "You have a mind that few can match." For a moment, Amina almost felt sorry for the Sheikh. He had spent his life amassing wealth and power, but it was clear that his mind was not as sharp as he had believed. In that instant, something shifted in her. She had won more than just a game of chess. She had won something far more valuable, the respect of someone who had once looked down on her. Rashid took a deep breath, his gaze softening. "Amina," he said, his voice filled with sincerity, "I would like to offer you something." Amina raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Rashid hesitated before continuing. "I want you to come work for me, not as a servant, but as a strategist. You have a gift, and I believe I can help you develop it." Amina blinked in surprise. She had never imagined that a moment like this would come. She had always known she was different, but she had never imagined that her abilities could lead her to a position like this. "I don't want your money," she said quietly. "I want respect." I want to be treated as an equal, not as someone beneath you. Rashid paused, his eyes meeting hers. For the first time, Amina saw the true extent of his humility. I understand, he said after a long pause. I promise, from now on, you will be treated as an equal. No more games, no more mockery. Just respect. Amina smiled, a small but genuine smile. She had won. Not just the game of chess, but something far more important, her place in the world. The Sheikh, a man who had once thought of himself as untouchable, had learned a lesson he would never forget. And Amina, the humble maid's daughter, had shown him that true power lay not in wealth or status, but in the mind and the ability to see the world through different eyes. In the weeks that followed, Amina's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. Sheikh Rashid kept his promise. He treated her with the respect she had always deserved, but never received. He gave her a space in his office, a place to think and strategize, where her brilliance could be fully recognized. She worked alongside his most trusted advisors, offering insights that stunned even the most experienced minds. As she grew into her role, Amina never lost sight of what she truly wanted: to be respected, to be seen for who she was, not for where she came from. The Sheikh, once a symbol of power and arrogance, had slowly transformed. He listened to her ideas, valued her perspective, and made her a key player in his empire. One afternoon, after a particularly successful business negotiation where Amina had come up with a brilliant strategy to secure a major deal, Rashid invited her to his office. He leaned back in his chair, a look of admiration in his eyes. "You have exceeded all my expectations," he said, his voice filled with genuine respect. "I had no idea someone like you existed, and now I can't imagine my team without you." Amina smiled modestly, but her mind was already racing ahead, thinking about the next steps, the next challenge. She had proven her worth, but she knew this was only the beginning. "Thank you, Sheikh," she replied, her tone calm but confident. "I believe there is always room for improvement, no matter how far we've come." Rashid nodded. "You are right," he said. "Your wisdom is beyond your years, and I have no doubt that you will achieve great things. I want you to have a say in the future of this company." It was an offer Amina had never expected. She had never dreamed that someone of Rashid's stature would trust her enough to include her in the decision-making process of his vast empire. But it was a turning point, not just in her career, but in her life. The following months saw Amina's influence grow exponentially. She became involved in every major decision, from corporate expansions to new investments. Her strategic thinking led to a series of successful ventures that bolstered Rashid's fortune even further. The media began to take notice of the Sheikh's mysterious new advisor, a young girl who had once been a mere maid's daughter. As Amina's reputation grew, so did the skepticism of those who had once mocked her. Some of Rashid's old advisors, unable to accept a young girl outsmarting them, tried to undermine her influence. They whispered behind closed doors, doubting her abilities, questioning her place at the table. But Amina remained unfazed. She had already proven herself, and she knew that she was more than capable of holding her ground. One day, as she walked through the grand halls of the Sheikh's estate, she paused for a moment to reflect. She had come a long way from the quiet girl who once played chess in secret with her grandfather. She had defied the odds, earned respect, and built a future that was entirely her own. As she stood there, looking out over the city below, Amina realized that the true power in life was not in wealth or status. It was in the ability to rise above expectations, to carve your own path, and to never let anyone define who you were. And with that realization, she knew her journey had only just begun. Months passed, and Amina's reputation continued to grow. She had become an integral part of Sheikh Rashid's operations, a strategic mind unlike any other. The once dismissive whispers of those who had doubted her were now replaced with expressions of admiration and respect. But with her growing influence came greater challenges. Some of the most powerful people in the Sheikh's inner circle were beginning to feel threatened by Amina's success. They had always been the ones making the decisions, and now they were being overshadowed by a young girl who had risen from the very bottom. Amina could sense the tension in the air. The smiles in meetings felt more forced, the compliments more hollow. There were moments when the advisors and investors exchanged subtle glances, as if wondering how much longer they could allow a child, to have such sway over the future of the empire. Despite their attempts to undermine her, Amina remained unfazed. She was no longer the girl who had been underestimated. She was a powerful force, with a clear vision and a mind sharp enough to outthink the best of them. One afternoon, as she sat in the Sheikh's private office, analyzing a new investment proposal, Rashid entered, his usual confidence replaced with a solemn expression. "Amina," he began, his voice heavy. "I've been hearing things. Some of the people closest to me are questioning your place here. They don't understand how someone like you, someone without the right background, could have such an impact." Amina looked up from the documents in front of her, her expression calm but determined. She had expected this moment, and now it had arrived. "Do you believe them?" she asked, her voice steady. Rashid hesitated. For a brief moment, he seemed lost in thought. The room was silent, the weight of the question hanging between them. Finally, he spoke. "No, I've seen the way you think, the way you've turned things around for us. I'm not questioning your abilities, but I can't deny that others are starting to talk." Amina nodded, understanding the complexity of the situation. She had known from the start that her rise would not be without resistance. "If they want to see me fail, let them," she said, her voice unwavering. "I am not here to prove them wrong. I am here to prove myself right." Rashid's eyes widened, impressed by her resolve. "I didn't bring you here to be just another advisor," he said. "I brought you here because you have something special. Your intelligence, your integrity, they're things that can't be bought or taught. They're in you, and that's why I trust you." Amina smiled, the sincerity in his words reassuring her. But she knew that trust would be tested, not just by those who doubted her, but by the harsh realities of the business world. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of high-stakes meetings, bold moves, and strategic decisions. Amina continued to push forward, her mind constantly focused on finding the best solutions, even when the pressure mounted. She had already proved herself once, but this was the real test, the test of her ability to sustain her success and build something lasting. And then, one fateful day, a crisis hit. The Sheikh's biggest competitor, a rival billionaire with a long history of underhanded tactics, launched an aggressive campaign aimed at stealing a massive portion of their market share. It was the perfect opportunity for Amina to show just how much she had learned. She had faced many challenges before, but this was different. This was personal. It was no longer just about proving herself. It was about protecting the empire she had helped build. As she worked late into the night, poring over numbers, strategies, and potential risks, she knew that this would be her defining moment. If she succeeded, the doubters would have no choice but to acknowledge her. If she failed, she knew it would be a hard fall. But Amina had never been afraid of failure. She had always believed that the only true failure was not trying. And as she looked over the plans she had developed, she felt a sense of clarity she had never known before. This was her moment, and she was ready to take it. The days that followed were filled with tension and anticipation. Amina had laid out a brilliant strategy to counter her competitors' aggressive campaign, a plan that involved not only undercutting their rivals' prices, but also launching an exclusive product line that would appeal to a new market segment. It was bold, risky, and brilliant, all the things she had come to be known for. As the Sheikh's team began to execute her plan, Amina couldn't shake the feeling that everything was riding on this one moment. She had faced doubts before, but this was different. This time, her abilities and the faith that Rashid had placed in her were being tested in ways they never had been before. The competitors' campaign was fierce, and their moves were calculated, but Amina was ready. She had spent sleepless nights perfecting her strategy, and now it was time to see if it would pay off. One morning, just as the team was about to implement the final phase of the plan, Amina received an unexpected call. It was Rashid, and he didn't sound like himself. "Amina," he said, his voice heavy with concern. "We've hit a roadblock. Our major partner is pulling out. They've been convinced by the competition that we can't deliver on our promises. If we lose them, everything we've worked for will collapse." Amina felt a wave of panic wash over her, but she quickly pushed it aside. She had faced challenges before, but nothing like this. She took a deep breath and focused. This was her moment. "We can fix this," she said confidently. "Let me handle it." Rashid hesitated, but he trusted her now. "All right, I'll leave it in your hands. Do whatever it takes." Amina immediately began making calls, reaching out to the key players who could help secure the deal. She knew she had to act fast. The clock was ticking, and the stakes had never been higher. As she negotiated with the partner, using every ounce of her strategic mind, she realized that this was not just about business. It was about showing her worth, proving that she was more than just a girl who had beaten a sheik at chess. This was about securing the future of the empire she had helped build and earning the respect of everyone who doubted her. Hours passed, and the pressure mounted. But Amina remained calm, focused, and determined. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the deal was sealed. The partner agreed to stay on board, and the competitor's campaign was effectively neutralized. Amina leaned back in her chair, exhausted but satisfied. She had done it. Not only had she saved the company from a potentially catastrophic loss, but she had also solidified her place as a key player in Rashid's empire. When she called Rashid to give him the good news, he was ecstatic. "You did it, Amina," he said, his voice filled with pride. "You've saved us." Amina smiled, but she knew the fight wasn't over. This victory was just the beginning. She had earned her place at the table, but there was still so much more to prove. As the days went by, Amina's influence continued to grow. She was no longer just a brilliant strategist. She had become an essential part of the team. The competitors had underestimated her, and now they were forced to reckon with the fact that she was not only capable, but unstoppable. And with every success, Amina's resolve strengthened. She knew that no matter what challenges came her way, she would face them with the same determination, the same confidence that had gotten her this far. This was only the beginning of her journey, and she was ready for whatever came next. With each passing day, Amina's influence in the Sheikh's empire grew stronger. Her strategy had not only saved the company, but also propelled it to new heights. Rashid, once her mentor, now looked to her for advice on almost every major decision. It wasn't just the financial success that was so gratifying to Amina, it was the respect she had earned from everyone around her. No longer the maid's daughter, she was a force to be reckoned with, a key player in the world of high-powered business. But with her newfound success came new challenges. As Amina rose, so did the resistance from those who had once dismissed her. The old guard, the advisors who had served Rashid for years, began to grow uneasy. They had tolerated Amina's presence at first, but as she took more control, their discomfort turned to open hostility. It wasn't just her youth that bothered them. It was the fact that she had earned her place, not through privilege, but through talent. Some of the advisors began to make subtle moves against her, questioning her decisions behind closed doors, spreading whispers of doubt. They had always been in control, and they couldn't stand the thought of a young woman taking their place. Amina, however, was no stranger to opposition. She had dealt with doubt and skepticism all her life, and she wasn't about to let a group of powerful men stand in her way. But the pressure was building. One evening, as she worked late in Rashid's office, she felt the weight of the mounting tension. The decisions she had made were paying off, but the growing discontent among the advisors was threatening to undermine everything she had worked for. Rashid, sensing her unease, called her into his office. "Amina," he said, his tone serious but not unkind. "I've been hearing things. Some of the advisors think you're making decisions too quickly, that you're too young to understand the long-term consequences of your actions." Amina looked at him, her expression calm but determined. "I've been listening to what they've been saying, Sheikh," she said. "But I've also been studying the market, analyzing the data, and making decisions based on what's best for the company. I know I'm young, but I also know what I'm doing." Rashid studied her for a moment, as if weighing her words. "You're right," he said finally. "You've proven yourself time and time again. But you need to be careful. The older advisors won't take kindly to being bypassed." Amina nodded, understanding the delicate balance she now had to maintain. "I know, but I can't wait around to prove myself. I'm not here to play by their rules. I'm here to build something better." Rashid smiled slightly, clearly impressed by her resolve. "I brought you into this company because I saw something special in you. You've shown me that I wasn't wrong. But I'm also here to warn you. There will be people who try to tear you down. You need to stay focused and never lose sight of what you want to achieve." Amina stood up, her mind already focused on the next steps. She had worked hard to get where she was, and she wouldn't let anyone take that away from her. "I won't let them," she said firmly. "I'll prove that I belong here, not just to them, but to myself." Over the next few weeks, Amina's resolve was tested as the tension between her and the advisors grew. But she remained focused on the long-term vision, never wavering in her commitment to the company and to Rashid's legacy. Her strategies continued to deliver results, and slowly, even the most vocal critics began to see the value she brought to the table. But Amina knew that the real challenge was still ahead of her. She had earned her place, but now she had to prove that she could sustain her success and build something truly lasting. As she stood on the balcony of the Sheikh's estate one evening, looking out over the city, she felt a sense of calm. She had come so far, but she knew this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be filled with obstacles, but Amina was ready to face them head-on. She had earned her place at the table, and now she was ready to claim her future. As the months went by, Amina's influence in the company solidified. Her strategies had helped Rashid's empire grow exponentially, and she was now a crucial part of the leadership team. The once dismissive advisors who had doubted her were now begrudgingly respecting her abilities, though some still harbored quiet resentment. Amina knew she had proven her worth, but she also understood that this was only the beginning. The true test would be to maintain her position, to continue delivering results that would keep her at the top. One evening, Rashid called her into his office. She had grown accustomed to these late-night meetings, where they discussed the future of the empire, the risks, and the opportunities ahead. But tonight felt different. As she entered, she could tell that Rashid's demeanor was unusually serious. He gestured for her to sit, and she took her place across from him, her mind already running through possible scenarios. "Amina, I need to tell you something," Rashid began, his voice tinged with concern. "We've received an offer from one of our biggest competitors. They want to buy us out, to merge with us. It's a significant sum, more than we've ever seen." Amina leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. "And what do you think about it?" she asked. Rashid sighed. "I've been in this business long enough to know that offers like this are rarely as good as they seem. Mergers always come with risks, control, culture, direction. But the money is tempting. It's hard to ignore. The board is divided on the issue, and I don't know where I stand yet. I'm asking for your opinion." Amina took a deep breath. This was a pivotal moment, one that could determine not only the future of the company, but also her own future. If they accepted the offer, they could secure their financial position for decades. But if they declined, they would have to continue fighting to stay on top in an increasingly competitive market. "Sheikh Rashid, I understand the temptation, but I think we should decline the offer," Amina said, her voice steady. "We've worked too hard to build what we have. This empire is not just about money. It's about vision, legacy, and the ability to make decisions that align with our values. Merging with them would mean losing that control, losing the very thing that has made us successful." Rashid looked at her for a long moment, as if weighing her words. "I knew you would say that," he said finally, a slight smile on his face. "You've always been a visionary, Amina. That's why I trust you." He paused before continuing. "But there's more to it. The competitor isn't just offering money. They've also promised us access to new technologies, a larger market, and resources that could help us grow faster. It's tempting, and I won't lie, I'm torn." Amina nodded, understanding the complexity of the decision. "I know, but those things come at a price. If we sell out now, we're not just giving up control. We're giving up the chance to build something truly our own. If we take the deal, we'll be no different from the rest of them, just another cog in a larger machine. We have a chance to create something lasting, something that reflects who we are. We can grow, but we must do it on our terms." Rashid leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "You're right. We've built this from the ground up, and I've always believed in our vision. But it's hard to turn down something so lucrative." Amina smiled. "Sometimes the best decisions aren't the easiest ones." Rashid let out a soft laugh. "You always know what to say. All right, let's do it your way. We'll decline the offer and continue to fight for our future on our terms." The next day, Amina and Rashid met with the board to present their decision. It wasn't an easy conversation, but Amina's confidence and clarity swayed those who had been uncertain. The company would not sell out. They would continue to fight, to innovate, and to lead on their own terms. As the meeting ended, Amina felt a sense of relief wash over her. It wasn't just a victory for the company. It was a victory for the vision they had fought so hard to create. And as she left the boardroom, she knew that she had earned not only the trust of the Sheikh, but the respect of the entire company. Her future was no longer uncertain. She had a place at the table, and now she was ready to lead. As the months passed, Amina's confidence continued to grow. She had made her mark in the world of business, and now she was ready for something more. She had helped build an empire, but the true test was whether she could lead it into the future. Rashid, once the powerful sheikh who had built the empire, now looked to Amina with admiration and respect. Their partnership had transformed not just the company, but both of their lives. Yet, the road ahead was still filled with challenges. As the world of business became more competitive, Amina knew that they had to constantly innovate and adapt. Rashid had always taught her that staying ahead of the competition was key to survival. Together, they began to make bold moves, investing in new technologies, exploring new markets, and pushing the boundaries of what their company could achieve. But Amina also understood that success was not just about the numbers, it was about the people. She had always believed in the power of a strong, united team, and now it was her turn to lead them. She focused on building a culture of innovation and trust, where every voice was heard, and every person was valued. The company began to thrive, not just financially, but in its ability to inspire and lead others. As Amina stood at the helm of the company, she reflected on how far she had come. She had started as a young girl with nothing but her intellect and determination, and now she was leading an empire. She had proven herself to those who had doubted her, but more importantly, she had proven to herself that she was capable of achieving greatness. Her relationship with Rashid had evolved into a true partnership, one built on mutual respect and a shared vision for the future. He no longer saw her as just a brilliant strategist, but as a leader in her own right. One evening, as they sat together in the company's headquarters, looking out over the city, Rashid turned to Amina. "You've done it," he said, his voice full of pride. "You've not only saved this company but taken it to heights I never imagined." Amina smiled, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "We did it," she replied. "Together." Rashid nodded, his eyes filled with admiration. "You've proven that the true measure of success is not wealth or status, but the ability to adapt, to grow, and to make a difference in the lives of others." Amina's heart swelled with pride. She had come a long way from the young girl who had been underestimated, but now, she had built something that would last. The future was bright, and with her vision, determination, and leadership, she knew that they would continue to succeed. And as she looked at the empire she had helped build, Amina realized that she had achieved more than just professional success. She had found her place in the world, and she had built a legacy that would inspire generations to come. The journey had been long, but it had been worth every challenge, every doubt, and every moment of struggle. Amina had proven to herself, and to the world, that greatness comes not from where you start, but from the strength of your vision, the power of your choices, and the courage to rise above every obstacle. She had not just won the game. She had become the game changer. Discover the inspiring journey of a young girl who defies the odds and rises to the top in the world of business in this incredible millionaire story. From being the overlooked daughter of a maid to becoming a key player in a billionaire's empire, this is a tale of determination, intelligence, and breaking through barriers. Witness the challenges she faces, from overcoming doubts to winning the respect of powerful individuals, all while staying true to her vision. In these millionaire stories, we see how one individual can change the course of their life and create lasting impact. This journey proves that true success isn't about where you start, but how you rise above the challenges and make your mark. As you explore this fascinating millionaire story, you'll be inspired by how a young woman builds a legacy of leadership, innovation, and resilience. Her rise to success is one of the most remarkable millionaire stories you will hear, showing that greatness is achieved by those who never give up on their dreams. Follow her path as she turns doubt into respect, challenges into opportunities, and ultimately creates a future that will inspire generations. This is not just a story about wealth. It's about the power of vision, the courage to make tough decisions, and the relentless pursuit of success. Get ready for one of the most compelling millionaire stories ever told.